So I might have already posted the long version of this. I've started recording myself working on this piece. Actually, I'm just going to do a bunch of recordings of me doing all sorts of art leading up to my show at the end of November. So the other video was about an hour long. I spent about an hour working on plaid. The other night, actually was going to have already posted these videos, but I had some issues getting them off my phone because the video was so long. Anyways, I did the sped up version. I got it down to 11 minutes, and I decided I didn't really want to bother with using free music offline because usually it's so. So I thought I would just do a little voice recording over this. I guess you can mute me if that's annoying. A little note about something I'm working on right now, the plaid in this. I cover quite a bit of ground in an hour, and just to talk about the difference, like I don't spend usually quite as much time on my textures when they're in the like fabrics and things on clothing and stuff like that as I do like when I draw facial features. So for example, this is 11 minutes, an hour sped up to 11 minutes, and you'll see at the end how much space on the paper I cover. But to give you kind of a comparison, when I'm working on facial features, I can spend an hour to 2 hours drawing just one eye. So that's kind of the difference in complexity between the two things. But yeah, and then I think coming up here very shortly, there's a moment where I have to take a break and go find my sand eraser, because if you watch the real-time video, you'll see me blowing on this piece a lot, and it's because the soft charcoal pencil that I'm using creates a lot of like fine dust, and it gets like all over the bottom, and I'm constantly blowing it off so it doesn't like create marks on the paper. And but inevitably it gets into the glove or gets underneath my hand, by the way, because I'm not using, I don't even know what they call them. They're usually these little pieces of like a dowel, like a wooden dowel that they'll have their hand on, so your hand's not actually resting on the paper, which would be useful, but this piece is really large, so it's not, I don't really have a good place for one. But anyhow, I'm constantly blowing it off, but I had smudged some and it bothered me, and so I had gone to clean it up, even though more than likely you never would have noticed because it's all going to be covered with this plaid that's mostly black. But, and it's funny, I just turn around to the camera and I'm like, oops. And it's kind of, a piece of work that's, when you spend this much time, you don't want to make an oops. Oh, here we go. Here's me looking for the eraser. But inevitably you're gonna have that happen, and you can't be afraid of it. And that's funny. That's one of the things I talk a lot with my kids that I teach art for. And we've been watercoloring this whole year, and they'll be working on something, and I can tell it's not finished, and they're like, "Oh, I'm done," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, you are? What? Well, why? I mean, you're not going to draw more on that, or that's all you want to draw?" And they'll inevitably say, "Well, I don't want to mess it up. Like, I like this, and I don't want to mess it up." So they have things that they want to add into the piece, but they're scared they're going to ruin it if they add it in. And so instead of having this completed piece, they're fine with like a partial piece. And I have to say to them, I'm like, okay, it's okay to mess up. Like, it's going to happen. But, what did you want to put in there? And we'll talk about it. And I was like, we can fix it, or, maybe what they had done so far didn't take that long. I'm like, we can paint it again. I can come help you, but let's try. Let's, don't stop at this point, because it's not you haven't got to the point you really wanted to get to. You're stopping because you've got fear. And getting them to get past that fear moment of messing something up they like, so far, but it's not complete. So it's interesting because I, I think that works in life the same as art, because I often, oddly enough, I'll draw one eye. I always start out with one eye when I'm in a face. I kind of mark out the face, and then I'll start usually with the right eye. And I'll spend all this time on it, and I'll get it to a point where I really like it. And then a lot of times there's a big weight between when I'm working on that and when I will finally go over it and start the left eye. Like, I'll even let it sit sometimes for weeks, because I'm like, I just spent 2-3 hours drawing this eye, and if the other one isn't to par for some reason, then I've got to start over. And so I don't know. So I understand their pause, but at the same time, I can't call it done, because then all I would have is, multiple papers of a right eye and no face. So it's important, I think, both in drawing and in life, that we don't stop and say, oh, this was nice, but let's stop because I'm afraid that I'm going to mess it up, or I'm afraid that, something isn't going to work out, because then we only get a piece of things, and they only get a little part of it and not like the whole completed picture. It's funny how a lot of things that we do in art kind of translate to life lessons like that. But the kids are cute. We've been watercoloring, and we worked on some background watercoloring and then drawing over the top of it. And I just had a lot of them today, panicking that they would mess up their painting. I'm like, you're not going to mess it up. And then none of them messed it up. Of course, they finished what they were doing and they loved it. And they're like, it looks great. And they were all proud of it. And I'm like, see, you were worried, but then it turned out. So that was good. They're fun. Wow, I'm barely to 7 minutes. I gotta fill up 4 minutes a time. It's funny because when you draw, as you can see, I spend hours saying nothing. Then I'm watching this, I'm like, now I gotta come up with something to say. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, if you have jobs where you don't communicate a lot during your job. Maybe you work at a computer and you're staring at it for hours, or you edit, or you're an artist as well. But I find that, like, when I have hours in a day where I'm drawing or I'm editing photographs or painting or whatever it is I'm creating, and there's nobody around and I'm completely quiet, it's funny, I can, even after that, like if I go hang out with a friend, I find like I don't have anything to say. Like, it's interesting because my brain has been thinking that whole time. It focuses so much on, okay, I'm going to draw this line over here. I'm going to fill this in with, charcoal. I'm going to then move to this part. Then I'll do this. Like, I have at least 10 steps ahead of what I'm doing in my head when I'm drawing or editing. And that's all I'm thinking about, because I'm basically holding those like little balls in the air and I'm pulling them down as I'm doing that. I'm like, I'm already thinking about where I'm going next. And sometimes I'll pause and step back and say, do I want to do that? I might switch to a different area on the painting. I change my mind. But literally I'm set usually that focus. So I haven't thought about conversation or words. And it's kind of nice. It's a nice distraction if you're wanting to not think about other things. But it's funny then when you have to get back into like having a conversation with somebody or talking to somebody, like you call someone, you have to like, I don't know, get back into the groove of conversation and words. And then I'm super talkative. Like, you can't get me to shut up. But I do definitely have that moment where I might have an hour or two where it's just takes a while for my mind to switch from, super concentration mode to conversation mode. So I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced that who has a job that's quiet. Yeah, I'm almost, like I'm at 9 minutes. I only have to come up with 2 more minutes of rambling. a lot more of this plaid to finish, so I'm going to have a whole nother video of nothing but plaid. So if you'd like to be bored and watch me draw and listen to praise and worship music, which is usually what I listen to when I am creating, I will have another one of those videos shortly. And then I would be moving on to drawing Stella, who's on the left and barely kind of marked in. So that'll be back to drawing facial features and hair and stuff like that, filling in with the stars. So that might be more interesting. But I'll have a video soon on pouring candles and making some t-shirts and stuff like that. So maybe if hours of drawing is not your thing, one of those might be interesting. And this could be all boring to you, I don't know. But I just thought it might be fun to share the process of what it looks like to create a piece like this, or what it looks like to create different types of art. If you have ever been interested in art or wanted to create yourself, or just like knowing how things get done. Sometimes I like to just know how stuff works or how people create or what they do. I like to watch YouTube videos of people creating things. So I enjoy that myself. I think I'm about to run out of music. Basically, my CD ran out, and my hands were starting to get a little tired, so I was going to take a break. I think I'm coming up on that here in just a second. And I didn't go today, I need more soft charcoal pencils, because I'm literally down to like the nub of all of them, and it makes it kind of hard to draw. I'm sure I'll try to eke out a little bit more out of them, because I don't like to waste material. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll show the camera here at the end. Yep, there you go. Almost depleted pencils. Okay, bye.